I'm Billy S, welcome back to the channel. Today we're dousing ourselves in water and wiping the sweat from our brows, as we rank all 10 fire levels in Soulsborne from worst to best. For this list, we're looking at areas that have a connection to fire, either based on the environment, the enemy design, or both. To be honest, I was expecting more areas than there ended up being, but 10 is a perfect number for a ranking. Some of my chosen areas may have a looser connection to the theme than others, and I'll explain why they made the list when we reach those entries. So without further ado, all 10 fire levels in Soulsborne ranked. Let me know which of these is your favourite down below. At the bottom of the barrel, we have one of my least favourite areas in Soulsborne and my least favourite area in the original Dark Souls, the Demon Ruins. For an area with such a strong visual identity and a surprisingly unique sense of initial progression, it sadly loses steam as the area continues. Ceaseless discharge and the lowering of the lava lake via his defeat is one of the best moments of the area, followed by some of the worst. Copy-pasted Taurus demons strewn across the newly revealed lava lake bed, hallways and corridors of Capra demons which, while less egregious and more fun to fight one-on-one, still feels a little lazy. Then there are those rockworm enemies that guard this area's bonfire, and the hallway with the weapon ember, which are some of my least favourite enemies to fight in this game. Maybe that'll be a list for the future. The run-up to the Demon Fire Sage at least feels fun, with the stone demon flamethrowers and a single Taurus demon waiting to pounce on you. If this were the only Taurus demon in the level, I'd actually be impressed and really give props to the developers for a great reuse of a previous boss. But it isn't, so no props for them. This area ending off with a reskinned reskin boss, followed immediately by a boss whose arena is arguably one of the worst in the series, just solidifies that the last thing I want to do is travel through the Demon Ruins. After such interconnected level design in the first half of the game, going from that to the linear progression of this area feels like such a downgrade. Luckily, it's only onwards and upwards from here. At number 9, we did go upwards, as I said, but only slightly, with Dark Souls 2's Iron Passage. This optional area of the second DLC can be found after taking one of the Broom Tower elevators downwards to an opening in the wall, and once entered, it's a path of craggy tunnels that leads to what I consider to be one of the best boss fights in the game. But this DLC area was designed with co-op in mind, and as such, it's filled with spammed enemies that hit hard and feature irritating effects that make traversal a pain, from the ability to slow the player down to just hitting very hard. If you know the path to the boss, you can bolt straight there and you will get to the fog gate most of the time, but sometimes you'll get unlucky and an enemy will clip you enough to knock off that HP. I'm gonna be real, I hate this starting sequence where you can pull this lever and run through a host of enemies to get past this openable gate, as it's clear you're never making it on your first attempt, as once that attempt ends, all the enemies imprisoned nearby are released from their cells, forcing you to kill them all to try again, which is likely to end in your demise more often than not. Thank God for Blue Smelter Demon being a pretty fun boss, even if it's a reskin. I already enjoyed the Smelter Demon fight, and I prefer the timings that Blue Smelter uses with its attacks, so this fight and I just really gel well together. If only the rest of the Iron Passage weren't so painful, I'd be willing to rank this area higher, but at least it shows a little creativity in comparison to the Demon Ruins. At number 8, we have 2-2, the Tunnel City from Demon Souls. I made the executive decision to not include 2-1, the smithing grounds, on this list, because the only instance of fire outside of those fire slug enemies was one magma obstacle you have to drain to progress. It's more of a mining cavern level, and Tunnel City is the same, but with a much greater focus on the fire and the flames, with enemies that attack with fire, a whole underground area filled with lava for you to traverse, a cliffside with a lava river running at its base, and the Flame Lurker boss, it's in the name. I think Tunnel City shows a lot of design promise, but not a lot of design focus. There are ideas scattered throughout that could be a great gimmick for the level, but are never elaborated on enough to feel substantial. The cliffside descent as you fight enemies is fun, but once over, you're in a cramped corridor that you can barely navigate with a camera that hates you. There are exploding minecarts, which could imply traps throughout the area, but then you don't really see many more. You can skip the entire level and just go straight to the boss by taking the path to the right at the start of the Archstone, dropping you down a jumping puzzle shaft to the Flame Lurker. And while I think this was the right move for Demon Souls, as there are no in-level checkpoints or stakes of Marika, it shows a lack of confidence in the rest of the level that the game actively encourages you to ignore it. An important vendor for weapon upgrades is also placed right near a series of flying insects, so you can never talk to him without getting mercilessly swarmed by the buggers, and it just feels so wrong. It's my least favorite area in Demon Souls by a wide margin, but I can see the formula for a good level in here somewhere, something I can't really say about prior entries. Perhaps the most controversial addition to this list, at number 7, we have the Profaned Capital from Dark Souls 3, and you would be correct in assuming I've gone mad, there's no lava here, but there is the Profaned Flame. This fire is the defining characteristic for all of the Profaned Capital's lore, and for as short as the main part of this area is, you are avoiding pyromancy attacks from the flame, heated weapons used by the stone gargoyles, and fire attacks from the various worshippers in the main temple. So while the aesthetics don't scream fire level, the enemies make up for it here. Profaned Capital is missed potential personified, but also a level that goes by quick enough that I don't have time to hate it. It's there, and then it's gone. I love the different enemies faced here and how they all utilize flames in some way. The gargoyles feel really satisfying to fight, and they've managed to catch me off guard a few times. The worshippers are a bit more of a mixed bag. I think their designs are fun and they're tough enemies, but with so many in such a small space, it's easy to be ganged up on, which isn't enjoyable. If only the palace you enter prior to fighting Yhorm was more fleshed out with an extra level to explore, or more tight corridors with patrolling enemies to face. I'm reminded of the palace in Elden Ring where you fight the Godskin duo and how there are so many winding corridors and floors to explore there. The concept was right there, add a few flame-based traps, a little extra elevation, and you would have a perfectly serviceable fire level, but as it stands, it just barely nudges onto this list. Just missing out on today's top 5, we have the infamous Lost Izalith from Dark Souls. As we all know, the development of the latter half of the game was rushed, and many point to Lost Izalith as the area that took the biggest hit. And if we're judging the first half, where you're navigating a lava-filled expanse with undead dragon butts roaming around, I'd fully agree with that sentiment. It's almost like a stealth section, trying to make your way from the start of the area to the hidden bonfire, and then up to the main temple. But once you reach said temple itself, I think Lost Izalith does enough to differentiate itself from the demon ruins, with a more unique style that's reminiscent of real-world locations like Angkor Wat in Cambodia. It's a striking series of visuals that looks nothing like the rest of the game, which is exactly what Lost Izalith needed. Combined with the flame-spewing rock monsters and the creepy Chaos Eaters, including the ditch where you encounter Sigmar of Katarina, I'd go as far as to say the enemy design and layout is almost on par with the rest of the game. Then there's the shortcut back to the Daughters of Chaos bonfire, across the bridge with the Titanite demon, and the Sunlight maggots to interact with, all ending with one of the most controversial boss fights in Soulsborne. Whether you're a Bed of Chaos defender or a Bed of Chaos hater, I don't think anybody can deny that at least aesthetically, it fits Lost Izalith to a T, even if that boss run back is an absolute chore. It's not a great area by any means, but it has such an identity of its own that I can't help but rank it higher than its compatriots. Happy holidays, viewers! I am trying to reach 20,000 subscribers on this channel by the summer of 2024, and I know we can do it. See how many of you guys aren't subscribed right now? We need to fix that. So be sure to parry that subscribe button to stay up to date on all of my future gaming content. Back to the video. Next up, we have the Smoldering Lake from Dark Souls 3, a unique fire-based area as the opening portion of the level is actually a water-filled lake that you can explore. But make no mistake, from the demon ruins hidden below the surface to the fiery attacks of the nearby boss and some hidden lava rooms in the depths of the map, this is a fire level. It's an evolution of the Demon Ruins Lost Izalith concept, featuring a demonic civilization that is slowly being eroded away. The tunnels you explore are more like tombs, corpses littered around every corner, the demons pushed into hiding by the skeletons of Karthus who manage the ballista that patrols the lake. In terms of sheer lore, I think it's one of the strongest areas in the franchise, and a great way to show the fall of demonkind following the various ages since the first game. As an actual explorable level though, it's a lot of samey corridors that don't do much to differentiate themselves. The enemy selection is filled with some of Dark Souls 3's most hated, Grus and those weird fireball mage dudes. I like the random Black Knight, and I don't mind the basilisks, but if I had the option to skip this area and just kill the boss, I'd take it. Which is exactly what I do, as you can reach the boss fog almost immediately upon entering the area by turning to the left and just making it past the sandworm. The level design is interesting, and I urge you all to check out my Dark Souls 3 area ranking video for a much bigger breakdown and what I think the devs were going for here. It's fascinating stuff. Still, I think my top 4 areas are just all vastly superior and more fun to go through. Time to stir up a bit of controversy. At number 4, we have the Iron Keep from Dark Souls 2, which I firmly believe is the strongest fire/lava level when it comes to a sheer aesthetic design. Sure, Elden Ring has a manor atop a volcano. Sure, Dark Souls has a city within a giant underground dome filled with lava. But Dark Souls 2 has a metallic keep created by a monarch that knew not how to handle his resources, and for his hubris, his keep is doomed to slowly sink into the lava piece by piece in his fiery kingdom. The old Iron King's backstory is some of the best lore in the Soulsborne franchise for a standalone boss, and his castle is vast and explorable. So many different layers, hidden passages, items to find, parkour for those who enjoy jumping to their demise, 2 bosses, a hidden PvP area in Belfry Sol, the list goes on. The main issue the Iron Keep has is its enemy placement. But while the original Dark Souls 2 had nuanced enemy placement that didn't feel overly spammy, Scholar of the First Sin has every Alon Knight locked onto your radius the moment you step into the castle.
Alright, this is it, people, let's move, let's go, 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 go!
The game itself is holding the area back from how brilliant the level design is, and how flexible progression can be by throwing the most irritating enemies possible at you, all the while laughing in your face. But I love that every room has multiple solutions. You can fight the smelter demon or deactivate the furnace to skip that boss. You can climb this ladder and take a rooftop path in the inner lava platforming room, or you can take out all the enemies for a straight shot to the spiral staircase leading deeper into the castle. And the vista as you emerge to take on the main boss is stunning. This fiery lava expanse that goes on endlessly. It's dreamlike in how far it reaches. And to top it all off, you fight a discount Balrog, my favorite Lord of the Rings creature. If only Scholar of the First Sin didn't Scholar of the First Sin all over the Iron Keep, people would remember it with far more fondness than it currently gets. But you know what? I'll always be there to defend it. I remember the good old days. Taking today's bronze medal, we have Sekiro's Hirata Estate. And you may initially think, why is this being included? But this is a video about both fire and lava levels, and Hirata Estate has a constant theme of fire throughout that, for me, qualifies our list. The Hirata estate is being ransacked by bandits, and the entire second half of the level is set ablaze, with Wolf having to sneak through various bandit groups to reach the main complex, which is on fire and burning, forcing Wolf to wade through the center courtyard, face off against Juzo the Drunkard, and make his way to Lady Butterfly in a, you guessed it, fiery, burning arena. Some enemies wield torches, which can be used to burn Sekiro, and you also obtain the Flame Vent Shinobi prosthetic from an early campfire in the level. All of this theming ties together to create a very unique style of flame level, not traditional in the slightest, but since when was Sekiro a traditional game? It takes the concept of stealth and amplifies it, forcing Wolf to take out each of the bandit groups carefully and methodically. Shinobi Hunter Enshin of Myson awaits you at the midpoint, and once you reach the main estate, grappling across burning roofs and running through the central lake gives a great contrast. It's one of the best areas in Sekiro from a level standpoint, with great game design that keeps the player looping around and pressing forwards, and only further enhances itself on the late game revisit where you face harder enemies from the Interior Ministry and another boss fight against Owl Father. So many amazing moments from Sekiro take place here, and it's one of the few areas I really enjoy relearning every time I visit the game. Just that grapple down the river as you search for a back way into the estate stays with me every time I play, and emerging from the well into the burning remains of this place hits hard. And it works as a great tutorial, introductory level to Sekiro due to its early place in the game, with the only exception being Juzo's fight, a little bit difficult there. I've never been a fan of drunkards, but I am a fan of the Hirata estate. When it comes down to it, there were only 2 levels that could stand atop the rest as my favourite flame-based areas in Soulsborne, and coming in with the silver is my favourite area of Dark Souls 2, Broom Tower. I know not everyone is a fan of the Dark Souls 2 DLC areas, and I know many don't agree with my love of Broom Tower, which is totally fair, but based off of my personal experiences, Broom Tower has only ever done me right. From the moment you strut up the giant chain and collect your required smelter wedges, it's a descent into darkness, from the fiery daylight of the peak, all the way to the darkened kiln where the Fume Knight awaits his challenger. You have to deal with various subsections of the tower, from those initial rooms packed with enemies and smelter wedges, which lead outside as you run through the ash and past unique and cool enemy designs until you reach the central bonfire. From there, you explore the side tower, collecting the rod needed to reactivate the elevators, and deal with my least favorite enemies here, the large and in-charge floor crawlers that explode after a short period of time. Followed by another descent down rickety crumbling floors, across dangerous walkways, avoiding ghostly armor that is decidedly more spooky than the enemies further above, until you reach the boss arena. And that's without going into all the optional areas to explore that make this DLC feel so worthwhile a purchase. It's a condensed vertical tower, and that shouldn't make for a good Soulsborne area, as we all know gravity is the bane of Souls players everywhere, but here it just works. An abandoned tower coated in ash, filled with unique enemy experiences and gimmicks. You can find out more about my love for Broom Tower in my Dark Souls 2 area ranking videos, well worth the watch. And to top it all off, we have some of the best boss fights in Dark Souls 2 here, the Fume Knight and Suralon. Come on, what more can you want? Well, was it ever in any doubt? My favorite fire level in any Soulsborne game easily goes to the Volcano Manor from Elden Ring, one of the best legacy dungeons in the game and one of the best areas in Soulsborne, period. From the immediate setting of a proud manor filled with champions that hides a dark secret, a twisted side to the manor that nobody could see coming, filled with snake men that extend to become long boys, torture machines in every building, virgin abductors hidden throughout, and chained up albinorics that have been tested and experimented upon. It's dark and twisted and plays into the trope of something that seems so simple on the outside, hiding something so sinister in its depths. While the exploration of each area is insanely fun, with the Torture Village being a prime highlight, and the final corridors leading back to the main part of the manor as well, it's the fact you can explore without needing to worry about dying to lava that makes it so good. In past games, you step in lava, you're dead in a few seconds. In Elden Ring, you step in lava, it's a minor inconvenience, you can heal through it easily, and this expands what FromSoft can do with their level design, hiding hidden areas in the lava, under overhangs, making it so you can parkour around and explore without that looming threat of fiery death. We get a boss battle with the Godskin Noble, which, while not my favourite fight in the world, fits thematically with the Dark Temple he's found in, such a strong aesthetic foundation. And don't even get me started on Lord Rykard, easily one of the best fire-based bosses we've ever seen, and quite possibly the best gimmick boss in Soulsborne. Every time I replay Elden Ring, I find something new I didn't find before. Did you know there's a hidden magma worm down this elevator without a health bar? You do now. Raya's questline takes you all through the manor and carries that same theme I love of discovering a dark secret and figuring out how to process it. And on the nice side of the manor, you even get a giant pizza wheel from an invasion, and if that's not an admission of one of the best areas in Soulsborne, I don't know what is. For making lava a fun obstacle rather than something we tolerate and bear, Volcano Manor claims its spot as the best fire level in Soulsborne. And that's my list. Which fire level is your favorite, and are there any other area types you'd like me to try ranking? I'm open to suggestions, I've already done the swamps. And I'm also open to you parrying that subscribe button to stay up to date on all of my future videos. My socials are on screen now, feel free to follow where you feel comfortable. I recommend my Twitter, my Blue Sky, or my Discord. All of them are valid choices. A massive shout out to my patrons over on Patreon for supporting me for another month. Thank you so much, you guys are amazing. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.